Hi, it's Jon Binnie. I'm your spiritual mentor here in Scotland, and I'm going to invite in my dear friend, Gemma Sandwell. Just give me one moment. Thank you for coming along, Gemma. It's really exciting to chat with you again. I think it's about 20 odd days since we last spoke. And we'd love to talk today about dark energy. I'm sure it won't be the only energy we're talking about, but it's a subject that has been a theme building up for both of us. And perhaps before we get into that, it'd be great just to hear a little bit about you, Gemma, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for the introduction and for being mini Gemmy in a box for you today. Really appreciate the the offer to go live again. Hi everyone who's watching. I'm Gemma. I'm an energy alignment coach, and I really work with a combination of neuroscience, energetics, and the quantum field to help you use your sensitivities as superpowers, get in touch with your gifts, and do the authentic work that you're here to do on this planet. And that is sort of a 18-year journey really that I've been on since which really started for me when I studied positive psychology, and that really awoke me to who I truly am at my core and my gifts, and led me into studying mindfulness. I then became a mindfulness teacher for a few years. I taught mindfulness in corporate, like all around the UK. I did a mindfulness tour and a little mindfulness bus. Oh, it wasn't really a bus. And that led me to kind of this sort of second stage of awareness and awakening that I then had. And I left corporate in 2019, moved fully into my business, and then had to go through like another awakening where like all of my gifts fully came in. I learned how to clear energy, which is kind of the kind of why we're talking about the dark today, because I've had some really intense experiences. For those of you that know human design, I have a 3 in my human design profile, which means that I'm here to learn from mistakes and experiences and then go into a role model role with that and teach that to others. So that's part of why we're going to talk about the dark today, because I've had a lot of experiences and lessons that have ultimately led to me doing quantum healing and be able to clear these energies as well. And of course that brings in more light. So as Jon said, today is about not just about the dark, but actually when we work with the dark, when we are able to face both the darkness in ourselves and our shadows and the darkness that exists in the energy, everything becomes so much lighter, and the way to the light is through the dark, which I'm sure Jon will agree with.
Definitely. I didn't expand. Oh. Wow, look, you're big and I'm small. This is good.
No, you're Binnie as well.
Help. That's cool. Oh, this is great. Like I can like switch between us, or maybe press more buttons and just see what happens. Well, thank you for the introduction and sharing your journey. Like I feel like every time I listen to anyone's journey, but especially yours, I just absorb more every time. And I feel like everyone's journey is so beautiful and unique. Our stories are so powerful, and I love your reflection on your mission as well, like to experience and then teach. That definitely resonates a lot with me. And I'll give a quick introduction for those that don't know me. I'm Jon Binnie. I live here in Scotland. I am, as we speak, working my notice in a corporate job after 26 years in the software engineering and artificial intelligence development field. And I went through a big awakening in 2017 when I meditated for the first time. I loved it so much I started meditating every day. It blew my mind. In the first meditation, I saw the energy flowing between stars and planets and like the creations of through nebulas of stars and planets, and I was hooked. I was like, some experience like that, I was like, and it's free and I'm sober, so I just kept going. And that daily practice a few months later turned into talking to my spirit guides, and then asking them for messages, turning those into songs every day. And I did count yesterday, but it's 2,300 plus songs since. But also in the last about 4 years, I accepted a mission to help, very much on par with this theme today, help clear negative energies and entities from people. And that's how my kind of quantum energy healing started. So I knew I could channel, but I didn't know much about energy, and I didn't know much about how to help people. And it's been an incredible journey since, doing mainly remote and some face-to-face energy clearings and healings, scanning people's chakras. Sometimes if you're on my YouTube channel on Sunday night, we went live and went to hell. We went to do a live soul retrieval, where we got a fragment from someone's soul and brought it back up. And it was just a really beautiful, it's like bringing back their heart and then their angel wings. And so, yeah, there's a lot of breadth to the work. And I've had many through that work, and then also ever increasing sensitivity, much more exposure to dark energy, as well as our love and light. Yeah, so that's me. And I feel like I'd love to, there's one thing I wanted to kind of start the conversation with, is, which I'm sure will echo through our examples, because I'd love to hear about your experiences, Gemma. I'm trying to remember when this was. I think it was about 2 years ago, when I was asking my guides for a message. They said, the whole universe is created with energy first. And I was like, right, what does that mean? And immediately my mind went to like an atom. I was thinking like, well, how does an atom physically exist in this third dimension, if it's only energy? And they said, well, it exists through vibration. So the vibration itself, the frequency creates the matter. Like if you vibrate energy enough, you start to create this. It's almost like both an illusion that it exists, and its vibration physically allows it to exist. And I was like, what's the vibration? Like, what is it? Where does it come from? And they said, well, a lot of it is love energy. And I was like, no, really? Like, yeah, like love energy is the same energy that it's a creative force. So it is creating atoms, and then their vibration, and so on, like creating the entire universe. And that started to blow my mind. And it's still a journey for me with my human mind getting to understand this. But I start to get it now much more. Like my perception of the universe is much more like, I think we have matching coffee cups. Cheers. Yeah, I feel like those scenes in Cheers. Yeah, I feel like those scenes in raw energy form, and that's how when I'm doing my client work and energy healing, which I do, with people anywhere in the world, and I can travel with them through space and time. That's what I see. I see the energy first. And it's only now is my kind of day-to-day human brain like starting to catch up. Like, what does that really mean? Like, that's all lovely and a little bit woo-woo or sci-fi or both. But what does it actually mean for us humans day to day? And why is dark energy like such a big part of this realization? Like, why do the darker end of the spectrum of beings on the planet at this time already know this? And so they already know how to manipulate the physical reality, and that we're kind of catching up as humans. So yeah, that was just a bit of a brain dump to set some of my belief systems and their evolutions. And I'd love to hear about yours, Gemma. Like, you posted this incredible video about a wedding, but we could talk about any of the examples you'd like to share your experiences of dark energy.
I love that, Jon. Thank you for sharing. I love that you were shown this like concept of energy first and the atoms. I came at it, probably no surprise, in that I've got like quite a neuroscientific background and that I studied psychology. I actually came at it through some research, and then my understanding came in. So it sounds like you came at it from the other end, and we've kind of met in the middle. So mine was reading, I was reading Supernatural, or Becoming Supernatural, by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And there was a experiment done in there which I think Epoch or Epoche is the name. I can't remember the exact name of the researcher, with a robot and a chick. And this is what really blew my mind open in terms of what could be possible. So I don't know if you've heard of the experiment or if anyone is watching, like I've got I can post it somewhere. I've got the actual research paper somewhere. It's a French study. And what they did is they put a baby chick next to a pen with a randomly controlled robot. Mm-hmm. And they know that the intention of the baby chick when it's born is mama. Okay, so it's like, where's mama? It's sending out this intention of like, feed me, feed me. So they know the baby chick is putting out an intention. And they thought, let's see what happens when we put an inanimate object robot it was programmed to just go complete random patterns around this pen, go left, go right equally. And when the robot was left on its own, it did these random patterns. It went equally right and left. They put the chick on the right side of the pen, and the chick was obviously sending out the intention of mama. It was a newly born chick, poor little chick. But it was obviously like tweeting, you know, mama, where are you? And they found time and time again, when they put the robot in the pen and they put the chick next to the pen, the robot only did random movements near the chick.
Wow.
So, and I had to read it about 5 times to really go, hang on. So a randomly controlled robot that supposedly in the 3D has no consciousness can be affected by an intention of a baby chick. And that just blew my mind open and led me into this journey of consciousness where it was like, okay, if a robot can be impacted, so can this pen. So can my car when it starts to go wrong. I drove through a huge flood the other day. I did a video about this and I immediately felt myself panic and think, is my car going to actually get me through this? I've only got a little car. And then I remembered, and this dropped in, and I was singing to my car and I was saying, I love you, car. Thank you for getting me through this. I love you, car. I love you, car. And when I came home and showed everyone the video of what I drove through on Sunday, they said to me, there's no way your car could have got through that. It was like over a foot deep. I've got a radiator along the front grille and front grille, could be a radiator. I don't know. I might have messed it up. But yeah, we got through the flood and I swear it's because I was saying, I love you, I love you, I love you to my car the whole way. I'm convinced if I'd have panicked, I would have been washed away in this lake that was the road. So that's kind of what started that for me. And then, like you say, there is this golden llama. You thought you were just weird. No, I'm super weird. Go with it. Yeah, gifts. It totally works. So this then led me to obviously understanding consciousness on a new level and how our thoughts and our feelings create our reality. And then the darker side of the energies, which I think we talked about this in our last video, which was like my first experience of that was a psychic attack where I literally woke up with bruises on my leg. But the wedding, let's kind of start with that. And I know you've had an event as well where you felt something similar. Mm-hmm. So the wedding, I woke up the morning of going to that wedding and I now know my body was saying, don't do it. Do not go to this wedding. So my body was like, this is a no. But my head was like, it's the first wedding since lockdown. Weddings are lovely. It'll be filled with love. It'll be wonderful. It's at this lovely venue. I think an initial red flag, like before my body even felt that, was on the invitation. There were all these beautiful flowers and then there were skulls like in the flowers, a bit like the kind of Mexico Day of the Dead, but even darker than that, because they're quite pretty skulls, aren't they? But this was like just actual skulls. Mm-hmm. So now knowing what I know now, that was a red flag. Woke up the morning of the wedding. The venue was lovely. The ceremony was lovely. But again, when I got there, there were animal skulls all around, like woven through roses and flowers. And I was like, this is a little bit odd. and then managed to, things kind of felt okay for a couple of hours. And then I started to notice people acting really odd, a bit zombie-like. Like people had just started to zone out, and like you were having a conversation with them, but they weren't there. There was almost like a bit of a paranoia in the air as well. And I noticed people kind of gathering around the tables we were outside at the time, so it wasn't too bad at this point. People gathering around tables, kind of looking a bit shifty and a bit paranoid. And there was almost like a bit of a divide going on. I thought, this is really odd. Then I realised, because one of the wedding party came up and showed me, and said, look what I've got to get me through the day, inside his jacket, there were some substances. I probably can't say what they are on here. Last time we got in trouble, didn't we?
That's right, yeah.
And I then soon came to realise, hang on, not only is everyone getting drunker and drunker, but these people have been like zombified. There's something else going on here. There's this other substance, not plant medicine, shall we say, because that would have had a different effect. Then the wedding went inside, and the moment I stepped inside, my whole body was like, it was like, fire, get out, fire. It was like there was an energetic fire. It was like, where is the exit? Yeah. And when we went inside, all these energies condensed inside, and there was trauma from a lot of people there, including the people that were getting married. There was the alcohol energy and entities. There were people drinking to kind of push the trauma down. So they'd almost sort of come to the wedding with a lot of issues and then drinking through that. There was the substance energy. And then what made it a complete storm, I don't know if I can say that word either, was, don't want us to get into trouble, I know we're rebels, but, was these animal skulls that were on the tables with the decorations, all these like really dark objects that were kind of scattered through the room.
Did you say it was in an old building as well?
Yes, and it was in an old building. And loads of people were coming back from the toilets saying the toilets were haunted. So
oh my God.
There were also lost souls in the building who I feel were also trapped there by the entities as well. So yeah, it was an explosion of alcohol entities, substance entities, dark decorations. But through the dark decorations, what I later found out also is that the people whose wedding it was were also unknowingly doing some dark magic. They didn't know that's what they were doing, but through what they thought was cool, they were actually doing dark magic as well. So yeah, and things got so out of control on a human 3D level. This is how bad things got. Like on the middle of the table, they had these table decorations that were basically mini trees. It was like a tree sort of log, and then on top of it was a tree with all these decorations. And at one point, this woman on our table was so out of it that she pulled the table decoration over and it landed on my head.
Oh wow.
And that was the moment where I just thought, enough. Like this is like out of control. And yeah, at the time I thought there must be something wrong. This is something I want to talk to as well. I'd love to know your experience on this. I thought there must be something wrong with me. Why can't I manage to go to a wedding? This must be my autism. This must be like, I must have something really wrong with me. Why can't I cope with this?
Yeah.
Maybe I've got a fear about people being drunk. Maybe, I must need to look at myself. I must have more work to do on myself. And it wasn't until later I'd kind of cleared it all and I'd gone back in and I'd observed what was actually happening. It was like, wow, that was an energetic shit show. And I went into that, with the word whips, I went into that like with all my gifts. And I think you said this on our last live, Jon, like, we're not here to take that stuff on our own.
Yeah.
And I'd gone into that. And, I didn't have permission. Obviously, the people whose wedding it was were enjoying what they were doing. I didn't have permission to clear anybody. I didn't have permission to clear the space. And I had to obviously clear myself because I'd taken a lot of that on. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on this, Jon. Like, I'd almost like, from a 3D lens, I'd almost badged it as like mental health. Like, I must have something wrong with me. Why am I anxious?
Yeah.
I must have something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing. And
there's a lot there.
I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'm big. You're
Yes,
small.
come back.
Visually, yeah. I I think the share that you put that on TikTok in 2 parts, and if you haven't seen it, please go and follow Gemma and watch those videos. Like, they're really powerful, and I feel like what you do so well when you're explaining that is there's this energy that's resonating from you about that experience, and it feels really is very validating as I, your question to me about like the experiences of increasingly becoming more sensitive is very validating to hear people talking about their energetic experiences, because in like somewhere between a world where there's no energy, and I don't think we're in that world anymore. Like I feel like we're normalizing words like energy. There's even that I love that, I often see it on TikTok, it's like more energy, more power, more passion. Like there's like that guy that always telling you to motivate, and it's like and people talk about things like the energy in a room. Someone told that joke, it was terrible, the energy in the room dropped, or we were all really excited and we couldn't really explain why, and everyone was sober, but we were like, it was just a really high vibration. We were like high on life. And I feel like those expressions and those terms are okay to talk about. Like, you're fairly okay without, people just switching off or walking away or insulting you. But the illusion that's going on, that's being presented to you, is exactly those points, that it's all you, John or Gemma or whoever's watching or listening, that it's. So whenever I'm in a confrontational situation with negative energies or entities, they will do their utmost to undermine me, because it's like the first line of attack, right? Which is they'll try and convince you that you're just hallucinating, that this isn't real, or that your sensitivity isn't real, and that's the superpower of the darkness, right? The superpower of the darkness is to make the light believe that it's not real, either that the dark isn't real or the light isn't real, or both, or just anything. It's all about deception. And then actually light on the frequency spectrum is more powerful than dark. And so there's this constant interplay between the two. And I love that when they manifest, like in some examples, like I experienced over the last couple of years. One was at a sports event, and it's a lot of the similar patterns that you had. Like, it was a very long event, so it was like 4 o'clock. We all got a coach out there to the event, so it was like 4 o'clock till I can't remember what time, because we had to stay. We had to stay to get a lift back from this coach at something like 11 or 12 at night. So it was really, really long. Lots of people drinking, and then when things shifted dramatically, and it was like a boxing event. I wouldn't usually go to that, but it was like a friend that was doing it. And actually, what was really interesting was the kind of the vibe of the boxers and their work was like all very integral, like all points based, all very. It was like a kind of championship, so they were all very sober and like really like it was a sport to them. Like, they were athletes and they were incredible at what they did. The audience were awful, and they just continued to escalate. And so you can imagine there was lots of guys, and that testosterone in the room just gradually increased with booze. And then eventually, I didn't realize it at the time. I realized about an hour later, but substances were being used. And so there's like people in and out the toilets. And at one point I was sat there, and behind me, there was 10 chairs in a row with 10 guys, like one guy on each chair. And they were standing together, like shouting at the match that was going on. And the intimidation was just intense. Like, the energy coming from them was it was so incredible, because it was so palpable that it seemed even stronger than the boxing match itself. And that, like, I could feel the energy from the boxing, they could feel the energy from the audience. Like, they're totally out of sync. And I feel really intimidated. And I just said to my wife, like, we're leaving now, and we'll come back to get the coach. And so we left. and just like you could just feel it, like almost immediately as you closed the doors behind you and left the place, it was totally different. Other experiences I have are now that I do things like clear people's homes of entities, and they can be ghosts or kind of what we call like a residual, almost like it's like the tape stone theory, where their energy's like kind of trapped in the ground or in the walls. In fact, my current home, there was a lot of work to do under the ground. And then sometimes it's demonic. And like the moment that even in the build up to it, like you experienced with the wedding, the build up to it can be a massive kind of period of intimidation. It's like, no, you're not going to go there. No, John, you're not good enough. No, like it's the same story every time. This is different, John. You won't be able to cope with this. You're not actually real. You can't do anything. And this constant barrage of like self-doubt energy. And then, which, you can defend yourself against. You can block it out. You can reflect it. You can do whatever you choose. And then when I physically step into those locations, and sometimes like, I live very close to Edinburgh in Scotland, and there's like, buildings there, hundreds and hundreds of years old. And some of them are just saturated in this dark, negative energy. And when you go in, you shine so bright in this very deep, dark environment. And although it takes, the friends, family, whoever's there, like and the people that are there in the building, it takes them quite a while to become almost overcome by the energy. The more they drink, the more they open up, the kind of lower their vibration goes. For me, when I'm there, it just continues to escalate, and it becomes like this. Often it's between me and the energy that's there and the entity. And so just a couple of weeks ago, I was playing live music, which isn't that common for me, but I went along. I was playing live music at a place in the town where I live for about 4.5 hours, and that in itself was quite exhausting. It was like an open mic, but there was just a couple of us that turned up, and we were asked to like keep going. And I started like with this big, powerful open voice. I could feel like my throat chakra. So like I was shining, and I was like, this is me. This is it, John. You can do it. And then the longer I stayed there, I started to pick up on and started to see with my third eye, this entity, a very dark one, skipping between the people. And I could see it. It would because it was taunting me. It was like, look, they're next. And it'd like stand over someone. So to me, it would look like a dark shadow standing over someone. And they'd say, they're next. And they're just I'd see them like slip inside. And you'd see the person getting a bit kind of agitated and a bit like, uncomfortable. And then something strange would happen. It would be like they knock their glass over, they're raising their voice, like something out of character would happen. And it was that energy shift. And then there was also, you end up in these situations where you're like, as a psychic energy healer and clearer, you end up in a position where either you have to go or they have to go. and it doesn't really matter how powerful we become. We don't own the universe, and we have to coexist. Like there's darkness and light in all of us. And I feel like every day now I'm getting put in places where, and hearing from other people asking me, what do I do when I've got this family event? What do I do when I've got a wedding or a funeral or Christmas or whatever it is they're coming together for? And I did have a really beautiful, I'm just going to expand you again. I did have a really beautiful experience of going to a funeral and last month, and it was a very close family member that sadly died, and the love energy was, the place was saturated in it. It was just overflowing from everyone. And in those moments when I felt vulnerable after being kind of subjected to, people's mourning as well as their average drinking behavior, someone came over to me and said, John, I just want to say I really love your podcasts. Like, I am binging on your podcasts and I just love them. And I just wanted to say that. And wanting to know that I'm watching them and just keep going with them. And that like made my year. And so I think that's the other thing to see, is that, you know, this is not a static world. This is constantly changing. And so there's always an opportunity for even the people that we consider at some point in our experience with them to be more towards their behaviors and their energy, more towards the dark. They can change. People change. People have, you know, awakenings. They have, in this case, very much an awakening, but they also have things like much more extreme, like walk-ins, where, you know, their higher self literally steps in and takes over, and they shift really dramatically. Even they might start to forget their previous parts of their life prior to those moments. And so that, I think a lot of that judgment part and the fear part that many of us have as we become more sensitive, you realize that actually your best defense is this love energy and having boundaries. You know, like you were saying, Gemma, when's the right time to leave? When's the right time to just send them love? Probably send them love all the time. When's the right time to stand up for yourself and say, you know, this is, I do not choose this environment. I do not choose these connections, these energies, exchanges with people. And so I think that's helped me become a lot more balanced and less judgy and less scared when I go into pubs or, you know, darker places.
I love that, Jon. Thank you for sharing. And wow, the boxing experience was really intense. And there is that connection, isn't there, between that, like, almost that feeling that like a fight is going to kick up. I mean, in your case, there was a literal fight, like a normal boxing fight. But yeah, like it's that sense of like, and I experienced that at that festival as well, that sense of like, oh, something's going to kick off. And I feel like when you said about love, I feel that that's so important and it's so high vibrational. And with that love, I feel comes a love for self and others, like the real like analogy of the cup overflowing. And when we can kind of zoom out and go, okay, so my gifts are that I am sensitive and I'm here to feel it, to transmute it. I'm here to feel it, to know how to be of service in this world. I'm here to feel these things. With that concept of love for self and others, we can kind of zoom out and go, okay, so how do I use my gifts in the way that they are intended? So I think a lot of us kind of go through different stages with this. So we might be in just that stage of it's like the Johari window thing, like unconscious competence. So we're in that stage of like, we're just kind of going through the motions and we're feeling the energies, but we don't necessarily know. We don't know that we know yet. And we're just feeling those energies. Then we become aware of the energies and we know that's what we're feeling, but we're still unconscious to the choices that we can make. So when we then zoom out and go, okay, right, these are my gifts. What are the shadow expression of those gifts? Well, that's like the feeling the overwhelm and feeling like I've got to take it all on, or I'm somehow responsible and I've got to send love to everyone. And it's, you know, it's irresponsible for me not to go to that pub because, well, I must live near that pub because I'm here to clear it and help all those people. And then it's like, next step is like, okay, I'm clear on what I'm here to do. I'm clear on what my gifts are. What are my boundaries? Do I go, like you say, Jon, do I go to this event and I know I've got like a 4-hour window? So do I go with a boundary and let everyone know that I have to leave? You know, even if on a 3D level, this is where we might, you know, we can't say, sorry, I have to leave in 4 hours because you've got some really intense entities in here, but you might have to just, you know, just don't even have to justify yourself. Sorry, I have to leave at 6, or thankfully I've got animals that are quite a good excuse to leave at home for the dogs. Yeah, and then from that zoomed out place, we can then be really clear about what we're actually here to do, how we're here to use those gifts. And this is what I found when I started to set boundaries around, okay, this is a yes for me, this is a no for me, this is a yes and I leave after 2 hours, this is a yes and I leave after 4 hours. this is a yes, and like thinking about the wedding, this is a yes, and I'll stay for the outdoor bit because it's a lot easier. My feet are on the grass. Then we can truly be of service and pull that energy into the deep work that we're actually here to do with our clients, and like the messages that are coming in through the collective, which you and I then share like on TikTok. Like that's what we're here to be of service of, that bigger picture, not clearing John, Jack and Sally, I'm just making up the names, down the pub.
Yeah.
Or, you know, clearing all the buildings in Edinburgh, because we're not here to take all that on.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And I feel a lot of it comes down to the respect of free will, right? That everyone has the sovereign right to, you know, to be dark. Like they can choose to consciously or unconsciously accept in energies, entities, you know, possessions. They can drink and take as many drugs as they want, or whatever they do. I'd encourage people to, you know, to use their discernment and keep legal. But all of it's a free will choice. And yeah, I feel that there's not the right thing to do for many of us isn't to hide away. And, you know, it's our choice. We get to choose if we want to hide. But I feel like a lot of why we come on, you know, live on TikTok and do this, and we put ourselves out there each day, is because we're stepping out into this energetic jungle, and we're saying, you know, enough is enough. Like this imbalance of darkness and light needs to continue to correct, and it can't be all about illusion and all about, you know, people just you know, only ever focusing on the illusion itself, like the physical manifestation of events, and that actually there's a whole universe of energy. Like, you know, I mean, quantum physics already knows this, and you know, many of even modern scientists, like you're saying, Gemma, like there's examples. There's like Schrodinger's cat. There's the slit experiment. There's like all these things that are in our consciousness, and they don't quite connect yet. There's not a unified theory of everything, or I mean, there's many, but not like one that's kind of taken hold. And I do feel like on that journey, it's important for us to step outside of our comfort zone sometimes, when we choose to, when we feel guided, and equally respect, you know, when we step into these dark places. So for instance, now when I go into like a pub or often older buildings, or a family get together, and often for me, they're often quite big. They're about 10, 20 people. I stick a little protective bubble around me, but it's not so hard that, you know, no one's going to be able to connect with me. I don't just want to be like some shining star in the sky that they're just like, oh, I'm too superior to talk to you. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And sometimes when I first meet people and chat with them, like my small talk is often like, you know, oh, I'm going camping on Friday. Like I don't like, you know, I don't go super metaphysical on people, and I try and meet people at their vibration, and that helps me because I know that I'm not like lowering my vibration or dimming my light. Like these are genuinely human, interesting things to me, and that they have, for me, often they're things that have this excitement energy. You know, like today I forgot to order a rear number plate for our new caravan, which means that it would be illegal to drive it without that, and then had to face my family and say, I'm really sorry, I've forgotten. I don't know if we can go camping today. And then I went along to the local garage because I had to get my car MOT'd, and they said, oh yeah, we do number plates. We can have it by midday. And I was like, I love you guys. You're like saving my life. And I love the energy behind that. Like they're a family-run business. They're a fantastic garage and I'm a regular customer. And it's like, I see the energy behind them. It's like, hi, John, how's it going? You know, we see you a lot because you've got like a couple of older vehicles. And I know that if I just looked up on a web page and saw X, Y, and Z features or services from another company, you just don't know what energy is behind that until you like connect with it and connect with the people that do it. And so, yeah, I often feel in these situations when we're connecting, you know, in places that are new to us, or older buildings, or gatherings, is it's helpful to have like a sovereign boundary to create. And I do like loads of free meditations on my website. And I know you're a big practitioner of this also, Gemma, of like that. I create this like golden bubble around me, and then, but not so hard that it's such a defense that I'm just blocking people out. Like it, you still need to choose what frequencies, what energies are allowed to come in and that you connect with. And it's not up to us to fix the universe or to heal everyone. And in fact, I'm a big believer that we should only be trying to heal people when we've got their explicit permission. And it's the same with things like buildings, and you know, that aren't your home. You know, don't just turn up and start like an energetic or spiritual warfare on a place just because you don't like the vibe of it, you know. But sometimes you do find lost souls there that need a bit of help, or do want to. Maybe they're a bit stuck or trapped and want moved on. So yeah, like cautiously stepping into these places. I love the idea of like some time limits, because energy and time are connected, right? There's this like, you can sustain like a self-protection for so long, but over time it wears out if you're not continually like connected up into source energy, or you're constantly distracted, or you're starting to feel overwhelmed by like doubt energy. And yeah, the other thing I do is, and I do this when I'm like, you know, dealing with like some of the darkest demonic entities, is that I genuinely send them love. Like, there's no judgment. I believe we've all, like, you know, including me, like, had some of these very negative lifetimes, and we've come from very dark roles and experiences. Many of us that would consider ourselves on the lighter end of the spectrum now, just to pass about halfway, have had very dark experiences that help teach us and our souls what's it like. Why do you perform those roles? Why do souls choose to go into those roles? And often it's a very positive in time, not in the moment, but in time, and often it's very self-sacrificial, like sacrificial souls that will go in and do these horrible acts to others to help them see, to help them grow, at the cost of their own karma, at the cost of their own soul growth. And so that really helps me. You know, I often end up crying when I'm towards the end of like an entity removal with a client, because I always ask the entity, like, why did they do that? Like, what was their purpose? And I'm just getting tingles down my spine. They'll say messages like, I did this to bring their attention to their heart. Like, I sacrificed this energetic incarnation to attach to them as like a small entity to their heart, so that they would do this healing with you, Jon, that they would come to this moment. And I'm just crying. I'm like, oh my God, like you did this for them. You did this for someone else. And they're like, yes. And now it's my turn to return back to source, to our creative energy. And so that helps me a lot with the judgment. Because we were kind of born as humans to judge, and yet, or we kind of program ourselves to judge. And I feel that it's unhelpful in a frequency spectrum that I know we all exist in, either in this lifetime at all aspects, all ranges of that frequency spectrum, or, you know, at any one time we fluctuate.
Amazing. I love that. That's so, yeah, I hadn't actually thought of it like that before. Thank you, Jon, for sharing that. That's kind of expanded my awareness with that, because just having that awareness of like, actually, even though the entity attachment was, could have been quite damaging in some way, it was actually there. It came from an intention of helping, and it actually came from an intention of love, even though it could have been incredibly dark. That's kind of blown my mind a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really interesting about the judgment, and that I feel that judgment kind of ripples between like the 3D and the 5D and beyond as well, doesn't it? Like, everyone has free will, including all beings, and everyone can choose in any given moment whether that's a 3D behavior or an energetic behavior. And all we really can do is to work on ourselves and with those that give permission. That's a really, sorry, my mind is a little bit blown by that information.
That's okay.
That's really, really fascinating. And I guess, all of us, we've, thinking about things like witch wounds and things like that, like in our past lives, we've been witches, wizards, but we've also been witch hunters as well, haven't we? We've all like played out both sides of that spectrum, and that's where shadow work comes in, because we're not ourselves, we're not love and light. And this is another thing that's kind of coming in here, is like, also one thing that I've established is, if we're getting certain types of attachments, like over and over and over, and there's a bit of a pattern, so I won't name their names, but there are some particular entities that use a lot of our life force energy. There are 2 particular names, and when I see them come up a lot in clearings, both with myself, I've had to do some work on this, and with clients, I know that there is like a dark female, it could be feminine or masculine, like a sexuality wound. And I know that is a direct correlation from, so if we've got that wound in our aura, if we're carrying that shadow, which could be from, right, let me make this, it doesn't make sense, let me put this into actual words. So let's say we were a priestess, and we had time in ancient Egypt, and we used like our sexual energy, but then something happened to us, like in that lifetime, where our voice was, I've seen like a lot of women being locked up, like towards the end of ancient Egypt, kind of what happened. So we were silenced in some way, and we've carried that shadow. Or in this lifetime, we were told age 5, like, good girls don't do that, like, don't be too much, don't be too loud, don't be too whatever. And we've carried that shadow through. That shadow then becomes like I see it as almost like a little energetic wound in our aura. And then we will attract entities that are a vibrational match for that wound. So this is something that I see over and over, is from that non-judgmental view of it. It's like, well, we have that darkness within us as well. We're actually, in some instances, a vibrational match for that entity, because of our shadows, our wounds, and our past lives. Like, we are that as well. And until we can like fully love that part of us, it's not going to transmute and alchemize. If we continue saying, no, I'm all love and light. I actually had an experience, which was a huge lesson last year. I was running a free event, which I do run a free event a couple of times a year, and I offer prizes. And I now don't give my clearings away as prizes. I gave one of my clearings away as a prize, and I was clearing this lady, and she had some really demonic energy that we were clearing off. And it was a really open conversation at the time. She seemed like really open. She was like researching some past life stuff come up. She's researching like the history of it as we were going. And then afterwards, I think she just, I don't know if it was like the entities were kicking off as they were leaving, but she just would not, like, suddenly just changed and flipped, and just would not accept that there was this demonic energy that we were clearing, and said to me, she said, I've gone to church my whole life, like, I must be love and light, like, I've gone along with the Bible, I go to church every Sunday, so there's just no way. And she just sort of disputed everything that we'd done. She said, this wasn't real. There's no way you would have cleared demonic energy from me, because I won't have any demonic energy. I'm all love and light, I go to church every week. And I was like, whoa. And what had happened is, although she'd won the prize and she had put the work in to take part in the event, because she hadn't paid like physical money for the clearing, and there wasn't a full energetic exchange. So something about it became a bit unbalanced. And then she just completely got consumed by the entities who said to her, no, the devil doesn't exist. There's churches someday.
Yeah.
But until she was willing to accept that there was that demonic energy, and it didn't mean anything about her. Like, I wasn't saying she was demonic. I was saying, like, we needed to clear it. So it's like, until we can fully, and I see this, I actually had a friend sent me an email yesterday, and it was like, messages from Spirit today. Spirit wants you to know that demons don't exist and everything is love and light in this universe. And I was like,
oh no.
What? So yeah, until we fully own and accept that there's dark parts of ourselves, and there are, you know, wounds and things that will need to be cleared, and love all of those parts of ourselves, the dark and the light, we can't then fully shift into that space of light, can we?
Yeah.
Because it's not light.
That's right. I totally agree. Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience. That I've had a couple of experiences where someone they haven't fully consented. So they've said yes to a session, and then, but there's been part of them that seems to be, it's almost like the deal isn't fully consensual because they haven't fully accepted what's about to happen. So they've said, yes, I'd like to, you know, spend an hour with you, or an hour and a half, whatever it is. Yes, I give you permission to enter my, you know, my energy. But no, at some point, if I hear something I don't like, I'm like, you know, I'm stepping out, I'm disconnecting. And that, you know, everyone has a free will choice at every part, but it does make it less valuable to both parties. I love what you were saying at the start of that, like I see so many times when I'm doing clearings, and I remember one of the first times I saw this, looking at someone's heart chakra. So I'd scan down through their chakras and I'd get down to heart chakra, and then there'd be this like the first one I saw, I remember this kind of leech. So I'd see this, like, maybe the heart chakra is about that big, and then just at the bottom there'd be this not super intelligent like attachment, and it would be there, and I'd be looking at it, and I'd be like, what are you? You're not part of my client. Like, you're a separate entity, and you're sentient. And I mean, depending on, there's no most of the time, every case is different, right? But I remember this one said nothing. It was just kind of like, leave me alone. I'm like, I'm feeding just now. And as the healer, you're looking at it thinking, I wonder why it's there. Why would it be on the heart chakra? Like, there's none of this is coincidences. You know, we've come, the universe has brought me and the client together. It's brought me to this moment and that part of their heart. And my first reaction is always to remove it. And sometimes it's not immediately. Sometimes, like, their spirit guide will intervene and say, not quite yet. Like, see if you can get a little bit more information. And this first time, so I removed it, and I bring in like my little light sword, and I cut it out, and I was holding it in my left hand, and it was quite small. And I was just about to hand it to Archangel Michael, and it was saying to me, "Oh, I just attached when when the client was in a supermarket, so they were wandering around, and in their heart was this feeling of almost like guilt and shame, and interestingly lack, because although they were financially abundant, they felt guilty when they went into these places of you know, abundance where they could just buy whatever they wanted. And there was this kind of shame behind that, because often they were sensitive, and they'd see other people and feel other people, you know, swapping items in and out because they're too expensive for them. And that's all it took, was, like, as you say, that vibrational match, to be like, that entity specializes in you know, in people that are going through those emotions, and especially those really low vibrations like shame, are so, like, they're enriched with, like, this life force energy that these beings love to feed off. And so I like thanked it and passed it to Archangel Michael. And just as I was asking Archangel Michael to return it to source, it said, you know, I only did this to bring attention to the heart chakra. There's his last words. That's all I heard. It was like, it's gone. And right enough, when I then did more work on the client's heart chakra, you see that they had a real gift. They had a real gift where they could, if they chose to develop it, they could be next to someone, and it could be in public, or it could be in like a one-to-one session. And I saw them like reaching out, like it's like their heart chakra had these hands, these arms, and they could wrap them around people and temporarily give them this beautiful feeling of love energy, almost like this like paradise, heaven-like energy. And they were holding that back. And this entity was like, I don't think the entity really cared about their, the future health of the client. But I do believe that the soul of that entity did. And that actually all of this was for a reason, to help me help that client activate their gift. And yeah, I would also say I've had, and I still get, attachments. Like it happens to us all. And it doesn't really matter what your practice is. It is a constant, ongoing kind of warfare between darkness and light. And I also know that the lower end of my habits, things like, I've been watching some zombie movies this week, like on Netflix. Like those lower vibrational actions also come with an energy, and they come with a price. You can't escape that. If you just remove the physical nature of everything in the universe, you'd be left with the energy. And the energy of zombie movies is often not like super positive. And so yeah, you can become a match for those things, or a match for those entities that want to trigger that same kind of fear and excitement and fight or flight adrenaline in you. So yeah, I definitely sympathize with your client, but at the same time, I fully accept that, we're all in this chaotic jungle of a universe together, and we are all open to these things to different degrees, and we all have free will choice to have great practices about our energetic health and our boundaries, and also to make decisions about when we choose to identify these things and actions to take.
I love that, Jon. What an amazing experience. And I could see it when you said about the leech thing. I could see it. It was almost like I felt like a little, like a centipede sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like 6 little legs. Like
that's right.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
I know we're a few minutes over time, and I feel like I always say this, we could just chat forever. I could for hours. Like I'd love to talk about, maybe this will be like the thing we talk about next would be some of our experiences of things like when I watch ghost hunting TV shows, like
Get me started on ghost hunting. Places, oh my goodness, it's so unethical. Yeah. Let's do it.
There's like what's really interesting about the illusion of the physical reality is that our phones and our TVs, they're black mirrors, right? They're like you turn off the screen and it's black, and the fact that you can't just like put a small physical device in front of you and then somehow believe that you are separate from whatever's going on. And yeah, I've definitely had quite a lot of experiences, but especially as my gifts become more activated, I just see these physical boundaries less and less. And it makes perfect sense, right? Like I was just telling you about a client session, and you're able to see, like, which means that you were in that moment with me. You were right there in that client session as you're experiencing it. And so like these boundaries, these physical boundaries are, as we expand our consciousness and become more and more aware, these physical realities are becoming less and less tangible and less important. And so, yeah, that could be I could go on for another hour talking about that, but that could be it.
That's our third live.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be awesome. And maybe we'll do like 50-50 size as well.
Maybe next time. Now we've balanced off, we've both been in the box.
That's right, yeah.
Next time we can do it 50-50, so it feels
that's right.
balanced. Although I appreciate you swapped us over, so we still got a little bit of time in the box and not in the box, didn't we?
It's so funny.
Really nice little box, really cozy.
Yeah. I feel safe in here.
It's very comfortable.
Well, thank you so much for your chat today and your wisdom and insights. And it's just really beautiful to. I think you're such a brave soul. Like, you share so transparently, and I just want to both encourage you to like keep doing it, and encourage others, like, share your experiences. It doesn't matter if you agree with us, both of us, or individually, or we're all discovering this energetic universe together and all the magic of it. And I have a growing sense that just like the chicken and the chick and the robot, that actually we change reality constantly. And that's why there's such an effort to create such an illusion around us, to keep us in that a matrix of a kind of reality cage. And so the more people share their individual experiences, the more we're able to reflect on those and choose for ourselves like what resonates. So I hope everyone and thank you to everyone that's joined in the live, and everyone that we're watching in the replay. Thank you so much. And thank you, Gemma,
as well, for asking me to go live again, and also for something I just want to finish on is like, you and I, the work that we do is similar, but it's also different, and we also have different. We operate on slightly different timelines to each other, because there are multiple timelines. So you bring things into your work, I don't bring into my work, and vice versa. And what I love is that ability to like hold each other's truth, and then just show up vulnerably, can't say that word now,
yeah.
vulnerably, like with our truth and the work that we do. And I think that's an important message for everyone watching as well. Like, you might agree with something that Jon said, something I said, you might not. Like, your truth is your truth, and everyone has their own authentic, unique truth. So what I love is that we can turn up, we can share from that place of truth. And those that will resonate will, those that won't, and that's all okay. And everything is like, that is that oneness, isn't it? Everyone's got their individual truth, and we are all connected, and we can have our own judgment and discernment and that unconditional love.
Oh, that's so perfect. Thank you. And yeah, it's like, I don't feel like I own truth, and actually the my truth and your truth, there's magic between them, right? The differences are magic. Like, there's gold dust and sparkles in the differences that we have with each other and with everyone else. So yeah, that's so beautiful. What a brilliant time to end on as well. 11:11. Thank you, Gemma.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jon.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye.